Welcome to Valuable Coaching Daily. And this Thoughtful Thursday, we want to thank our sponsors, One Stone Apparel. They make great shirts, great apparel. Check them out, onestoneapparel.com, or email Dave at onestoneapparel.com. Now let's start the show. All right, good morning. Welcome to another edition of Valuable Coaching. This week, again, we've started a new day-by-day kind of breakdown. Today is Thoughtful Thursday. On these Thursdays, we're going to try and look at a book or talk to somebody about books that they may feel help them in their coaching realm. We first have this great clip from our interview earlier this week that was recorded last week by Coach Chris Tamas talking about the value of reading. So let's take a listen first at what Coach Tamas has to say.
Books that have had nothing to do with sport, has maybe ex-Navy SEALs, maybe business leaders, so on and so forth. And you just start to pick up all these things that are important, and then you try to implement them as best you know how. And I just think, the capability of learning is huge.
All right, that was great. I mean, you can definitely learn a lot from books. We can definitely learn a lot from other professions as well, and develop our leadership through all kinds of different avenues. And we're going to talk now with an athletic director of a Christian school in Tennessee near Nashville, and we're going to ask him about books that he loves, and we're also going to get an idea of what inside out coaching is, which is another way that he uses with his coaches and his athletic department to develop coaching, and it's a program that's used all throughout the country. So let's hear a little bit more from Christ Presbyterian Academy Lions athletic director Mike Ellson.
The Inside Out initiative goes back nearly 20 years. Inspired originally by the book Season of Life by Jeffrey Marks. Jeffrey Marks was a Pulitzer Prize winner. He was a ball boy for the Baltimore Colts in the 1970s. And one of the linemen, number 76, Joe Ehrman, was a really influential player. And Jeffrey Marks got to know Joe. And so they separated for 25 years. Jeffrey grew up. And all of a sudden, Jeffrey discovered that Joe was at the Gilman School in Baltimore, Maryland in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so Jeffrey wrote the book, Season of Life, a New York Times bestseller. And it basically captures Joe and Biff Poggi coaching the Gilman School in the sport of football, with the most important word being love. And it was like, okay, this is like unheard of. You don't really coach. That's being a pansy, a patsy, if you will. And what's the job of the coach? To love the players. What's the job of the players? To love each other. And that's how the culture of the Gilman School was viewed by Jeffrey when he wrote this book nearly 20 years ago. I have a paperback version of the book that was given to me by one of our coaching mentors here at CPA. Before the book ever went hardback or anything. And so Joe Ehrman and I have known each other almost 20 years, and I count Joe a really dear friend. Fast forward to 2011, and a book that was written called Inside Out Initiative by Joe and Paula Ehrman. It goes into transactional coaching. What can the student athlete do for me? How can they help me build my record, my pedigree, my resume? How can they help me look good with that one loss record versus the transformational coach? Meeting students where they are, but not allowing them to stay there. Joe goes through his personal story of being punched in the face by his father and so many other heartbreaking scenarios. Joe talks about his Syracuse lacrosse coach being the most transformational coach in his life. And then he goes into, towards the latter part of the book, there's a student-athlete code of conduct, a parent code of conduct, and a coach's code of conduct, holding all three entities accountable for each other. And there's a lot of cross-referencing and intertwining of those codes of conduct. So a lady named Jody Redmond, who was an associate executive director for high school athletics in the state of Minnesota, read Joe's book. She was so moved that she wanted to take the curriculum out of Joe's book and move it forward and have it spread first in Minnesota, but now across the nation. And to make a long story short, Jody got to know Joe. They went to the NFL Foundation, the NFL Financial Foundation, and they asked the NFL to partner after the scenario where, there was a guy that played for the Ravens that there was a video of him beating his wife on an elevator. I don't know if you remember that. This guy was from New York high school.
Uh-huh.
But Jody saw that, and and then they go to the NFL. Joe has a bunch of friends at the NFL, and the NFL has sponsored this. So the NFL then in turn went to different franchises across the country, and they have those franchises, several now have bought in to the Inside Out Initiative, which is a 3-phase program. It goes into introduction, growing, and then implementation for each state that has an NFL franchise. So for here in Tennessee, the Tennessee Titans bought in, and they began this partnership, this initiative with the TSSAA, and then you can even see behind me, that's the NIAAA cohort, but I'm like the executive director of the Tennessee Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association, the TIAAA, and we're one of the partners with the Titans, with the TSSAA, with the school superintendents, the board of directors, and we have embraced this initiative, and we're like in year 3 now. But it all stemmed, Miles, from the Season of Life to the Inside Out Initiative to Jody Redmond, and it shows that one person can be a spark to ignite a mission-driven, relationship-building purpose for why we as coaches are called to lead kids. And so those books, that initiative, they have played a heavy influence for us here at CPA. And frankly, we wish more schools would join in our state and across the nation.
Well, that's great to hear. I mean, it sounds like a great initiative. Those sound like great books that I think, coaches should dive into, athletic directors should dive into. You've obviously been having some success there at CPA. Your high school varsity football team just won the state championship. I just wonder how do you go about conveying this message to your coaches, and then how do your coaches kind of take that and trickle it down to players, to their assistants, to JV coaches, middle school coaches?
It begins with what you and I talked about earlier about the hiring process. It's about identifying people that have a calling, that have a heart for what we do here at our school. We make no apologies for the fact that our first name in our school is Christ Presbyterian Academy. Presbyterian, that word pales in comparison to the first word. And then our school motto, Soli Deo Gloria, to God alone be the glory. And what's cool, within a 48-hour span from Thursday afternoon when Ingle Martin led our program to a state championship, to Tom Allen of Indiana University coaching the football. And I'm from Indiana, so of course I'm partial to the Hoosiers. But their last words in their press conference, separate from each other, was Soli Deo Gloria, our school motto. So we're looking for coaches that have a calling to want to be called to help strengthen the culture of meeting students where they are and using sport as a transformational experience, so that when they leave, they're better than when they came in. I'll give you an example of how that occurs inside the culture of CPA football. And I could go into so many different, our boys' soccer motto is love God, love the brothers, love the game. Our boys' basketball program has brought in the new Middle Tennessee Fellowship of Christian Athletes director, Scott Cooper, and he's part of the DNA of our program now. Well, during football season, Coach Ingle Martin has a program called Manhood Mondays. Every coach on the staff takes a Monday, and they do this before they hit the field on Monday's practice. I don't care if we're coming off a win, off of a loss. We might have an easier opponent. We might have a difficult opponent. It doesn't matter. It's unconditionally driven and consistent, and a critical component of the football program at CPA. So the coaches come in and they share their stories. They share their stories, Miles, from a 4-part scenario. They'll talk about an early childhood event, a recent event, their public self, and their private self. They do this on cardboard boxes, or like we've been on Zoom this last year, we've shared it with a quadrant on a screen showing one component, per four. End up breaking it down and building it back up. Those Manhood Mondays, I would say, are one of the most important ingredients to success of the football program. And when our players walked off the field last Thursday, if we would have won, we won and that was great. But if we would have lost on the board, we still would have won where it really matters. And that's training those young boys to become men. And so that's what drives our culture. And I said this to you earlier. For myself as an athletic director, I'm in my 34th year. I love giving our coaches the freedom to be who they are. So you're given a blank canvas with a paintbrush and paint. And we encourage you to be who you are, paint your own picture, but know that when you need more paint or your brush dries up, the athletic department's going to be there behind you to help support you. You're a successful coach at our school if we know that you love our children. If it's transactional and all about you, you will not be successful here. I don't care what your one-loss record is. So how does the world define success? Well, with your resume building pedigree. How does John Wooden, which you and I talk about? It's a peace of mind simply knowing you did your best, that you gave your best effort and have self-satisfaction you did your very best. That is success. And so the football team last Thursday walking off, great. We're glad to hang a banner, but it doesn't define who we are as far as the ultimate definition of success is concerned.
I love that. This week, one of our earlier days on Monday, we're doing a kind of mindful Monday. We're talking about a quote. The quote for that day was either you win or you learn. And so it really sounds like that's something that you guys are instilling there. And it does. It leads to success and success beyond the field, which is, I think, really what everybody's goal should be, because, student athletes, athletics is going to end at some point for everybody. And so to be successful in their next chapter is really important. I really want to thank you for your time today. This was great. We're starting something new, and it's great to have somebody jump in, and you're the first athletic director we've been able to talk to for this. And, I think you have a lot of wisdom to share. And so we're happy to put, a little bit of it out there, and look forward to hopefully having an opportunity to talk with you again. And, I want to just say thank you again so much.
Well, Miles, thank you for the opportunity. And anytime we get a chance to talk about great books or building culture that benefits student athletes, we're all for it. And it really fires us up. It's why we do what we do.
All right. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I want to thank, again, Athletic Director Mike Ellson today for his interview. Really glad he gave us his time today. And I hope that everybody is continuing to try and follow us on YouTube at Valuable Coaching. Make sure you subscribe, like our videos. We're going to continue to try and make updates. We'd love to get people's feedback. Also, listen to us on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And then also follow us on Instagram at Valuable Coaching. And we hope to keep growing and keep helping out young coaches, athletes, and parents all alike. Have a great Thursday, and we look forward to talking to you guys again tomorrow.